The stars belonged to the Zephyrians, and they made sure everyone knew it. For 300 years, their massive ships had swept across the galaxy like hungry wolves. 17 star systems had fallen under their claws. Billions of beings now served them as slaves or lived in constant fear. Commander Vex Crather stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching another world burn below. The green forests of Altair 7 were turning to ash under the plasma bombardment from his fleet. Soon, the survivors would be rounded up and shipped to the mining colonies. Those too weak to work would be killed. It was the Zephyrian way. Crather was 9 feet tall, like all adult Zephyrians. His scales were dark green, almost black, marking him as a senior warrior. Sharp claws extended from his fingers, each one capable of tearing through steel. His yellow eyes could see in perfect darkness, and his hearing could pick up a heartbeat from 50 yards away. Evolution had made his people into perfect killing machines. "Commander," said Captain Zek, approaching with careful steps. Even among Zephyrians, showing weakness could be fatal. "The hunting is complete. 60,000 survivors have been captured. The rest are dead." Crather nodded. It had taken only 6 hours to conquer a world of 10 million people. Altarians had tried to hide in their underground cities, but Zephyrian sensors found them easily. Their weapons were toys compared to Zephyrian technology. Their military had scattered after the first attack. "Good," Crather growled, his voice like grinding stone. "Load the cargo ships. We leave for the next target tomorrow."
Ow.
The bridge fell silent except for the hum of machinery. Crather's crew worked with deadly efficiency. Each one was a predator, bred for hunting and killing. They had conquered civilizations that had existed for thousands of years. No species had ever successfully fought back against them for more than a few months. On his homeworld of Zephyr Prime, Crather had earned his rank by killing 17 challengers in single combat. He had led hunting fleets for 50 years, never losing a battle. His reputation struck fear into the hearts of entire species. When other aliens heard his name, they surrendered without fighting. The Zephyrians had evolved on a death world where only the strongest survived. Every creature on their planet was designed to kill. The weak died young. The strong grew stronger. After millions of years, the Zephyrians emerged as the ultimate apex predators. They had no natural enemies. Nothing could match their speed, strength, or killing instinct. When they first reached the stars, other species tried to stop them. The peaceful Cetians had built a massive defense fleet. It lasted 3 days against Zephyrian hunters. The warlike Drachnaray were famous throughout the galaxy for their fighting skills. They surrendered after losing half their fleet in a single battle. The ancient Vorthon Empire had ruled 100 worlds for 10,000 years. Now their descendants worked in Zephyrian factories. "Sir," called Navigator Hicks from his station, "we have received new orders from High Command." Crather turned, his claws clicking against the metal floor. "Speak." "Long-range scouts have found a new system. Single inhabited world. Species. Calls itself human. Preliminary scans show they are weak. No natural weapons. No scales or armor. The High Council has assigned the conquest to your fleet." Crather studied the data on his screen. The planet was small and blue, orbiting a yellow star. The creatures living there were pathetic. They stood only 6 feet tall at most. Their skin was soft and pink or brown. They had no claws, no fangs, no natural defenses at all. Their technology was primitive. Most still lived on the surface of their world instead of in proper underground layers. "How many ships do they have?" Crather asked. "None that can threaten us," Hicks replied. "Small vessels, for moving between their continents, few orbital stations. Their weapons appear to be chemical explosives and metal projectiles. Very basic." Crather almost laughed. Chemical explosives against plasma cannons. Metal bullets against energy shields. It would be like using stones to fight a starship. Humans were so weak that conquering them would barely count as hunting. "How many hunting packs do we need?" he asked Captain Zek. Zek studied the data for a moment. "The planet has about 8 billion inhabitants. They appear to be scattered across the surface in thousands of small groups. I recommend 12 ships, Commander. It should be more than enough to break their will to fight." Crather nodded. 12 ships could destroy entire fleets of primitive vessels. The humans would see the Zephyrian hunters descending from space and immediately surrender. Most species did once they realized how outmatched they were. Very well, Crather said. Prepare the advance fleet. We will test these humans first. If they prove more troublesome than expected, we can always call for reinforcements. The bridge crew began preparing for the jump to hyperspace. Crather walked to the main viewing port and looked out at the stars. Each point of light represented potential prey. Some were already under Zephyrian control. Others would be soon. The humans lived on a world they called Earth. According to the scouts, it was a pleasant planet with vast oceans and green continents. The climate was mild, the resources abundant. It would make an excellent addition to the Zephyrian Empire. The humans themselves would make decent slaves if they were trainable. If not, they would make decent food. 3 days later, the advance fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the human solar system. 12 hunting ships, each one capable of destroying a city with a single shot. Commander Sekvar led the advance force. He was young for a Zephyrian commander, only 80 years old, but eager to prove himself. The fleet moved toward the blue planet at the center of the system. Their sensors detected thousands of human settlements scattered across the continents. Cities, they called them, though they looked more like ant hills to Zephyrian eyes. The humans had built tall structures reaching toward the sky instead of digging proper underground strongholds. Open communication channels, Sekvar ordered. Send the standard surrender demand. The message went out in dozens of languages, translated by Zephyrian computers from captured databases. It was always the same. We are the Zephyrians. We are your new masters. Surrender immediately, and some of you will be allowed to live as slaves. Resist, and all will die. Usually the response was immediate. Panic, chaos, desperate pleas for mercy, offers of tribute and submission. The humans took longer to respond than most species. When the answer finally came, it was not what Sekvar expected. The voice was calm and steady. Human, obviously, but showing no fear. This is Admiral Jack Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. You are not welcome in our system. Turn around and leave now, or we will defend ourselves. Sekvar blinked in surprise. No prey species had ever responded with threats. They begged, they pleaded, they offered tribute. They did not issue ultimatums to apex predators. Repeat your message, Sekvar said. We did not understand. The human voice came back, still calm, still steady. I said, come and try. For a moment, the bridge was silent. Then several Zephyrian officers began to laugh. The arrogance of these humans was amusing. They actually thought they could fight back against superior predators. Begin the attack, Sekvar ordered. Target their largest cities first. Show them what happens to prey that forgets its place. The 12 hunting ships descended toward Earth. Like falling stars, their plasma cannons charged. Their missile tubes loaded. Their crews prepared for what they assumed would be a quick and easy slaughter. None of them realized they were about to encounter something their species had never faced before. Not another apex predator, but something far more dangerous. Something that had learned to hunt in ways the Zephyrians could not imagine. The age of human resistance was about to begin. The first Zephyrian ship dropped through Earth's atmosphere like a metal comet. Commander Sekvar watched from his bridge as the human cities grew larger on his screen. No panic yet. No running crowds. The humans seemed to be waiting for something. Muttered Captain Yex, his second in command. Usually they scatter like frightened animals by now, Sekvar shrugged. Fear makes some species freeze. Begin bombardment of the largest city. That will wake them up. The plasma cannons charged with a low hum. On the screen, the human city called New York spread out below them like a metal forest. Millions of humans lived there, packed together. In their strange, tall buildings, one shot would kill hundreds of thousands. Fire, Sekvar commanded. The plasma beam lanced downward, bright as a small sun. It should have carved through the city like a knife through soft flesh. Instead, it struck something invisible and scattered into harmless light. The city remained untouched. What? Sekvar snarled. Report. Sir, called the weapons officer. "They have some kind of energy shield. It absorbed our entire shot." Before Sekvar could respond, his ship shook violently. Alarms began screaming throughout the bridge. The lights flickered as something exploded against their hull. "Incoming missiles!" shouted the sensor operator. "Dozens of them." On the main screen, Sekvar saw streaks of fire rising from the human city below. The missiles were primitive-looking, nothing like Zephyrian weapons. But they kept coming, wave after wave, striking his ship from all directions. "Shields holding," reported the tactical officer. "But they are targeting our weapon systems. Very precise shots." Another explosion rocked the ship. This time, the lights went out completely for several seconds. When they came back on, half the control panels were sparking. "How are they doing this?" Sekvar demanded. "Their technology is supposed to be primitive." His answer came from above. Small human craft, no bigger than Zephyrian fighters, screamed down from orbit. They moved in perfect formation, weaving between the Zephyrian ships like angry insects. Their weapons were tiny compared to alien plasma cannons, but they used them with deadly accuracy. Captain Lisa Rodriguez pulled her F-35 fighter into a steep dive, lining up her shot on the alien ship's engine ports. Her radio crackled with voices from other pilots in her squadron. "Blue Leader, this is Blue 3. I've got a lock on the big one. Copy that, Blue 3. All units, concentrate fire on their weapon systems. Make them blind before you make them dead." Lisa had been flying fighters for 12 years, but nothing had prepared her for this. The alien ships were huge, bristling with weapons that could destroy entire cities. But they were also slow and clumsy. They moved like ancient battleships. Expecting their enemies to stand still and fight, humans had learned better tactics. Long ago, her missiles struck the alien ship's plasma cannon just as it tried to fire again. The explosion sent debris spinning through the atmosphere. The massive ship lurched to one side, trailing smoke and fire. "Direct hit," Lisa called over the radio. "Their main gun is down." The battle was spreading across the globe, over London. Wing Commander Peter Davis led RAF fighters in attacks on 2 more alien vessels. The humans had been preparing for this day. Ever since their telescopes first detected the Zephyrian fleet approaching, on the ground, Sergeant Danny Coleman crouched behind the rubble of a destroyed building in Manhattan. Marine unit had been deployed when the aliens first entered orbit. Now they were proving that humans could fight back in ways the aliens never expected. "Johnson Rodriguez, flank left," Danny whispered into his radio. "Williams, Chen, take the high ground. When that alien dropship lands, we hit them from 3 directions at once." The Zephyrian transport touched down in Central Park, its landing thrusters scorching the grass. The hatch opened and 20 alien warriors poured out. They were massive, each one armed with plasma rifles that could melt steel. Their scales gleamed in the sunlight like armor. The Zephyrians spread out in a loose formation, expecting to hunt down scattered human survivors. Instead, they walked into a carefully planned ambush. Danny's Marines opened fire from concealed positions. Their rifles seemed pathetic compared to alien weapons, but the humans had done their homework. They aimed for the gaps between scales, for the soft spots around the aliens' eyes and joints. They used armor-piercing rounds designed specifically for this moment. The lead Zephyrian stumbled as bullets found their mark. His plasma rifle went wide, melting a tree instead of killing Marines. Before he could recover, a rocket propelled. Grenades struck him in the chest, sending him crashing to the ground. "Keep moving," Danny shouted. "Don't let them get a clean shot." The humans scattered and regrouped with practiced efficiency. They used the terrain, the buildings, even abandoned cars as cover. Every time the aliens tried to pin them down, the Marines were somewhere else, shooting from a new angle. Commander Zith led the alien ground forces. He had conquered 12 worlds in his career, but he had never faced anything like this. Prey animals were supposed to run when predators appeared. These humans fought back with coordination that should have been impossible. "They move like a pack," he growled into his communicator. "But they are still just weak meat creatures. Advance and kill them all." His warriors charged forward, roaring their battle cries. For a moment it looked like their superior size and strength would carry the day. Then the humans demonstrated another skill their enemies had not expected. From rooftops and windows, human snipers opened fire. Each shot was precisely aimed, taking down Zephyrian warriors with single bullets to their weak points. The aliens had never faced enemies who could kill from such distances with such accuracy. Staff. Sergeant Maria Santos lay prone on a rooftop 6 blocks away, her eye pressed to her rifle scope. She had been the best sniper in her unit even before the aliens arrived. Now she was proving that human patience and precision could overcome alien strength. Her first shot took down a Zephyrian captain who was trying to coordinate his troops. The massive alien dropped like a felled tree. Her second shot disabled another warrior's weapon just as he was about to fire on Danny's position. "Tango down," she whispered into her radio. Switching targets. The battle raged for hours. In the sky, human fighters continued their hit-and-run attacks on the alien fleet. On the ground, Marine units and Army soldiers fought with a skill that amazed even themselves. They had trained for this, but training was different from facing 9-foot-tall predators with razor claws. As the sun began to set, something unprecedented happened. Commander Zith found himself surrounded, his warriors dead or scattered. A group of human soldiers emerged from the rubble, their weapons trained on him. He expected them to finish him off. In Zephyrian culture, defeated enemies were always killed. Instead, they did something that shocked him to his core. "Don't move," said Sergeant Coleman, his rifle aimed at Zith's head. "You're coming with us. Kill me and be done with it," Zith snarled. "I will not beg for mercy." Danny shook his head. "We don't kill prisoners. You're going to help us understand how your ships work." The concept was so alien to Zith that he could barely comprehend it. Predators did not spare their prey. Winners did not help losers. But these humans seemed to operate by completely different rules. Back in orbit, Commander Sekvar stared at his tactical display in growing horror. Of his 12 ships, 3 had been destroyed, and 4 more were heavily damaged. His ground forces were scattered or captured. The easy conquest had turned into a disaster. "Sir," called his communications officer, "we are receiving surrender demands from the humans." Surrender demands? Sekvar could not believe what he was hearing. From prey animals. The human voice came through the speakers, calm and professional. "This is Admiral Morrison. You have 2 choices. Withdraw immediately, or we will destroy the rest of your fleet. You have 1 hour to decide." Sekvar looked at his remaining ships. Half were damaged. His crew was demoralized. These humans had proven they could fight back and fight back effectively. For the first time in Zephyrian history, a conquest had failed. "Signal the fleet," he said quietly. "We withdraw to the outer system. Send word to Commander Crather. Tell him we need reinforcements." As the alien ships limped away from Earth, humans around the world celebrated their first victory. But military leaders like Admiral Morrison knew this was just the beginning. The aliens would be back, and next time they would bring more ships in laboratories around the world. Scientists began studying captured Zephyrian technology and prisoners, Dr. Amanda Clark leading the research team. At Area 51 made her first breakthrough within hours of examining the alien equipment. "Their weapons are powerful," she told the assembled military leaders, "but they are designed for fighting primitives. Their tactics are based on intimidation and brute force. They have never faced an enemy that could adapt and learn." "Admiral," Morrison nodded grimly. "Then we had better learn fast, because they will be back." Outside, human factories began working around the clock, producing new weapons based on captured alien technology. Around the world, military units trained for the battles to come. Humanity had won its first victory against the galaxy's apex. Predators. But everyone knew the real war was just beginning. News of the human victory spread through Zephyrian space like wildfire. For the first time in 300 years, a prey species had successfully fought back. Across 17 star systems, alien slaves looked up at the sky and whispered a new word. Hope Commander Vex Crather received the report while conquering the mining world of Beta Centauri. He read it 3 times before believing it. 12 ships defeated by primitives. Its best young commander retreating like a wounded animal. It was impossible, yet it had happened. Assemble the full hunting fleet, Crathar ordered his captains. We go to this Earth immediately. Within days, 60 of the finest Zephyrian warships gathered at the edge of human space. 10,000 warriors, veterans of 100 conquests, prepared for battle. This time there would be no mistakes. The humans would learn what happened to prey that forgot its place. But the humans had not been idle. In the weeks since the first battle, they had worked around the clock to prepare for the return of their enemies. Dr. Amanda Clark led teams of scientists in studying every piece of captured Zephyrian technology they could find. Their plasma weapons worked by containing superheated gas and magnetic fields, she explained to a room full of military officers. The containment field has a specific frequency. If we can disrupt that frequency, their weapons become useless. Admiral Morrison leaned forward in his chair. How do we disrupt it? Dr. Clark smiled, with sound. It's very specific sound waves transmitted, at exactly the right frequency. We have already built prototype devices that can do this. In another lab, engineer Bobby Turner was reverse engineering captured Zephyrian armor. The aliens thought their scales made them invincible, but Bobby had found their weakness. The scales overlap like fish scales, he told his team. They protect against impact from the front, but they are vulnerable to vibration from specific angles. If we hit them with the right frequency at the right spot, the entire armor system breaks down. Around the world, human factories worked day and night. New weapons, new armor, new tactics. Everything based on the simple principle that had served humanity for thousands of years. Learn from your enemies and adapt faster than they can. Captain Steve Murphy led the most secret project of all. Using captured Zephyrian ships, his special forces team had learned to fly alien technology. They planned something no species had ever attempted, a direct attack on Zephyrian forces using their own ships. Remember, Steve told his team as they prepared for launch, we hit fast and hard, then disappear. Make them think their own people are turning against them. The modified Zephyrian fighter slipped away from Earth under cover of darkness. Its hull had been painted with human stealth coatings. Its weapons had been upgraded with human targeting systems. 2 alien sensors. It would look exactly like one of their own ships. When Crathar's fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system, they expected to find Earth defenseless. Instead, they found something that shook them to their core. The humans had built defenses. Massive space stations orbited the planet, bristling with weapons that looked suspiciously like improved versions of Zephyrian plasma cannons. Minefields stretched between the outer planets, each mine equipped with sensors that could detect approaching ships. Fighter squadrons patrolled in formations that seemed almost familiar to Zephyrian eyes. They have learned from our technology, observed Captain Zek, studying the tactical display. But they are still primitives. We outnumber them 10-1. Crathar nodded. Begin the attack. Full assault on all defensive positions. Show no mercy. The Zephyrian fleet charged forward like a pack of hungry wolves. Their plasma cannons began firing long before they reached effective range, turning space into a light show of deadly energy. They expected the human defenses to crumble under the assault. Instead, something impossible happened. The human weapons began jamming Zephyrian communications. Strange sound waves filled the space around the alien fleet, disrupting their plasma containment fields. Half the Zephyrian shots went wild, their weapons malfunctioning at the worst possible moment. What is happening? Flagship shuddered under return fire. "Sir," called the weapons officer, Our plasma systems are failing. Some kind of interference is disrupting the magnetic containment. On Earth, Dr. Clark watched her frequency disruptors work perfectly. The devices she had built were broadcasting sound waves that turned the aliens' most powerful weapons into expensive decorations. Target their flagships first, she told the defense coordinators. Without communications, they cannot coordinate their attacks. In space, the battle quickly turned chaotic. Zephyrian ships found their weapons unreliable. Their communications jammed, their formations breaking apart. Human fighters swarmed around them like angry bees. Using tactics learned from studying alien combat recordings, Colonel Janet Hayes coordinated the defense from a command center, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. She had studied every Zephyrian battle and recorded history, learning their patterns and weaknesses. They always attack in the same formation, she explained to her staff. Alpha leader in front, wing commanders on the flanks, support ships in the rear. If we take out the Alpha leader, the whole pack becomes confused. Her prediction proved correct. When human missiles disabled Crather's flagship, the entire Zephyrian fleet began to lose coordination. Ship captains who had always followed orders suddenly found themselves making their own decisions. They were not good at it, but the real shock came when Steve Murphy's stolen fighter appeared behind the Zephyrian lines. To the aliens, it looked like one of their own ships had gone rogue. The fighter attacked a Zephyrian transport, destroying it with familiar plasma fire. Sir, called a panicked communications officer on Crather's bridge. Ship 7 is firing on our own forces. Crather could not believe what he was seeing. Zephyrians never turned against their own pack. It went against every instinct their species possessed. The idea that it might be humans using captured technology never occurred to him. Order Ship 7 to stand down, he commanded. Steve Murphy's voice came back over the radio, speaking perfect. Zephyr and his team had been practicing for weeks. Negative. Pack leader. These humans have shown us a better way. We will not be slaves to the old hunting codes anymore. The words hit the Zephyrian fleet like a physical blow. Rebellion was impossible in their culture. Individuals who challenged the pack leader were killed immediately. But now it seemed to be happening, and they had no idea how to respond. More confusion followed as human ships began appearing throughout the battle zone. Some were clearly human designs, fast and maneuverable. Others looked like modified Zephyrian vessels armed with hybrid human-alien weapons. The aliens could not tell friend from foe. Sir, reported the tactical officer, we are detecting human ships throughout our formation. They must have been hiding somehow. Crather stared at his display in growing horror. The humans were not just fighting back. They were fighting smart. They had learned Zephyrian tactics and improved on them. They had stolen Zephyrian technology and made it better. They had turned the hunters into the hunted. All ships, retreat. To minimum safe distance, he ordered. Regroup and assess casualties. The Zephyrian fleet pulled back, licking its wounds. Of 60 ships, 12 had been destroyed, and 20 more were heavily damaged. The humans had lost only 3 space stations. And a handful of fighters? It was a disaster that would have been unthinkable just months ago. As the aliens regrouped, they discovered something even more disturbing. Several of their ships were missing entirely, not destroyed, not damaged, but simply gone. It would be days before they learned the truth. Human boarding parties had captured them intact. Lieutenant Commander Paul Johnson led one such boarding operation. His Marines had used small shuttles to approach damaged Zephyrian ships, then cut their way inside using tools copied from alien technology. Remember, Paul told his team, "We want prisoners and equipment. Kill only if you have to. These aliens are more valuable to us alive." The concept of taking prisoners was still strange to Paul's Marines, but they followed orders. They stunned Zephyrian crew members with captured alien weapons, then secured the ships for study. Every computer, every weapon, every piece of technology would help humanity prepare for the next battle, back on Earth. Admiral Morrison reviewed the battle reports with satisfaction. The second Zephyrian attack had failed even more completely than the first. But he knew this was still just the beginning. They will send more ships, he told his staff. Probably their entire fleet next time. We need to be ready. Dr. Clark nodded. We have learned much from the captured vessels. Technology is actually quite simple once you understand the principles. We can build better versions of everything they have. Engineer Turner was already working on improvements. Their armor plating can be enhanced with human materials. Their weapons can be made more accurate with our targeting systems. In 6 months, we will have ships that are superior to theirs in every way. But the most important discovery came from the interrogation of captured Zephyrian officers. Major Karen White led the questioning using psychological techniques developed specifically for alien minds. They are not as united as they appear, she reported to Admiral Morrison. Many of their subject species are ready to rebel. The emergency council meeting on Zephyr Prime lasted for 3 days. High Commander Sektar himself presided over the gathering of the most powerful predators in the galaxy. The news from Earth had shaken the very foundations of their empire. Possible, growled General Vash, his scarred hide marking him as a veteran of 50 campaigns. Prey does not defeat predators, goes against the natural order. High Commander Sektar was the largest Zephyrian alive, standing nearly 11 feet tall. His black scales had never been pierced in combat. He had personally conquered 8 star systems and ruled the Empire for 2 centuries. His yellow eyes burned with ancient fury. The natural order has been challenged, Sektar said, his voice echoing through the council chamber. These humans must be destroyed completely. Not enslaved, not conquered. Destroyed. Commander Crather shifted uncomfortably in his seat. His failure at Earth had cost him much respect. But he was still alive only because no other commander had volunteered to face the humans again. High Commander, Crather said carefully, these humans are unlike any prey we have encountered. They learn from every battle. They adapt faster than we can plan new attacks. Perhaps we should consider Sektar's roar silence the chamber. Are you suggesting we negotiate with food animals? Have you forgotten what it means to be Zephyrian? The rebuke stung, but Crather had seen human tactics firsthand. No, High Commander. I only suggest that we prepare more carefully this time. Within weeks, 300 Zephyrian warships gathered at the staging area near Alpha Centauri, 20 Ponte. 1,000 warriors, the largest fleet ever assembled in their history. Every veteran commander, every elite hunting pack, every secret weapon in their arsenal. This time, there would be no escape for the humans. But while the Zephyrians prepared for war, the humans had been busy changing the rules of the game. Admiral Morrison stood in the command center beneath the Pacific Ocean, watching displays that showed activity throughout the galaxy. Report, he said to his intelligence chief. Colonel Janet Hayes pointed to the main screen. The Altarians have begun their rebellion. 3 Zephyrian garrison fleets are tied up fighting on their home worlds. The Cetians have seized control of their orbital shipyards. And here, she pointed to another sector. The Drachnari have declared independence from the Empire. Morrison nodded with satisfaction. What about our special operations? Major Karen. White stepped forward. Captain Murphy's team has successfully contacted resistance groups on 12 worlds. We have been sharing our technology and tactics. The Zephyrians are fighting rebellions throughout their territory. This was the human way of war, not just defeating enemies, but inspiring allies. While the Zephyrians gathered their forces for one massive assault, humanity had lit fires of rebellion across their entire empire. The first sign of change came when engineer Bobby Turner's new ships rolled out of the construction yards. They looked like no vessel ever built before. Sleek human design merged with captured Zephyrian technology. Powered by fusion reactors that Turner had improved far beyond alien specifications. She's beautiful, said Captain Michelle Davis, as she toured her new command, the UES Defiance. The ship was smaller than a Zephyrian battleship, but packed with weapons and defenses that no alien engineer had ever imagined. Dr. Amanda Clark had been busy too. Her latest breakthrough would change everything. We have learned to replicate their communication frequencies, she explained to the assembled fleet commanders. Not just jam them, but copy them. We can now send false orders to their ships. The implications were staggering. In battle, Zephyrian forces relied on absolute obedience to the pack leader. If humans could impersonate those leaders, they could turn the alien fleet against itself. But the real revolution was happening in the minds of other species. Lieutenant Commander Paul Johnson had been traveling secretly through Zephyrian space, making contact with enslaved peoples who had given up hope generations ago. "The humans have done something we thought impossible," he told a gathering of Altarian resistance leaders. "They have defeated the Zephyrians in open battle, not once, but twice. The Predators can be beaten." The message spread like a virus through the galactic communication networks. On 100 worlds, slaves looked up at their masters and saw something they had never seen before: weakness. When High Commander Sektar's massive fleet finally arrived at Earth, they expected to find a single world waiting to be crushed. Instead, they found something unprecedented in galactic history: a coalition. Ships from a dozen species flanked the human fleet. Altarian cruisers, their hulls patched but their weapons ready. Session defense platforms, relocated from their home system. Even a few Drachnary warships, their crews eager for revenge against their former masters. "This cannot be," whispered Captain Zek as he stared at the tactical display. "The prey species are working together." Sektar himself commanded the flagship of the Zephyrian Armada. He had come to personally oversee the destruction of the humans. Now he faced something that challenged everything he believed about the natural order. "They are still weak meat creatures," he snarled. "Numbers mean nothing. We will destroy them all." The battle began with the largest exchange of fire in galactic history. 300 Zephyrian ships against nearly 200 vessels from the coalition. But this time, the aliens discovered that numbers alone were not enough. Captain Michelle Davis led the human fleet in a coordinated attack that used every lesson learned from previous battles. Her ships moved in complex patterns, using their superior speed and maneuverability to stay ahead of Zephyrian targeting systems. "All units, execute pattern Omega," she commanded. "Remember, we are not trying to match their strength. We are trying to outthink them." The humans had learned something important about Zephyrian psychology. The aliens fought as individuals, each ship captain trying to prove his own superiority. They had no concept of true teamwork, only pack hierarchy and personal dominance. Coalition fleet fought differently. Human ships provided covering fire for Altarian cruisers. Session defense platforms coordinated with Drachnary fighters. Species that had been enemies for centuries now worked together against their common oppressor. Dr. Clark's communication jammers went to work immediately. False orders began flooding Zephyrian channels, sending ships to the wrong positions, ordering retreats that never came from real commanders, creating chaos in their carefully planned formations. Ship 12 returned to defensive position immediately. Came a voice that sounded exactly like High Commander Sektar. "Ship 37, you are ordered to provide covering fire for the left flank," said another transmission in perfect Zephyrian. Within minutes, the alien fleet was in complete disarray. Ships were flying into each other, firing on wrong targets, abandoning their positions based on orders that had never been given. But the real shock came when Major Karen White's psychological warfare unit began broadcasting throughout Zephyrian space. The messages went out on every communication frequency, in every language spoken by enslaved species. "The Predators are losing," the broadcasts announced. "The humans and their allies are winning. Rise up. Fight back. The age of slavery is ending." 17 worlds, the impossible happened. Slave populations that had been crushed for generations suddenly found the courage to rebel. Zephyrian garrison forces found themselves fighting for their lives on their own conquered territories. High Commander Sektar watched his empire crumble in real time. Reports flooded in from across Zephyrian space. Rebellions everywhere. Supply lines cut. Entire systems declaring independence. The humans had not just started a battle, they had started a galactic revolution. Sir called his communications officer. "We are losing contact with sectors 7 through 15. The rebels appear to have seized control of the communication networks." In the heat of battle, Captain Steve Murphy led a daring assault on Sektar's flagship itself. His Special Forces team, now equipped with the best human and alien technology, cut through the massive ship's defenses like a knife through paper. "Remember," Steve told his team as they breached the alien hull, We want Sektar alive if possible. He is the key to ending this war. The fighting inside the flagship was brutal. Zephyrian warriors fought with desperate fury, knowing that defeat meant the end of everything they had built. But human tactics and superior equipment gradually wore them down. When Steve's team finally reached the bridge, they found High Commander Sektar standing alone, his weapon drawn but his spirit broken. Around him, displays showed the collapse of his empire in real time. "Kill me and be done with it," Sektar said, echoing the words of so many defeated Zephyrian commanders. Steve shook his head. "We don't kill prisoners. You are going to help us end this war." The concept was so alien to Sektar that he could barely process it. In his culture, defeat meant death. But these humans seemed to operate by completely different rules. "You cannot change what we are," he said finally. "Predators and prey. Hunters and hunted. This is the way of the universe." "No," Steve replied. "This is just the way you chose to live. We're going to show you something better." As the largest Zephyrian fleet in history retreated in disorder, carrying news of their defeat throughout the galaxy, a new age began. The final battle took place in the Zephyr system itself, home world of the galaxy's former apex predators. For 300 years, no enemy fleet had dared approach the heavily defended system. Now ships from 20 different species jumped out of hyperspace around the massive red star. Captain Ryan Foster stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching the enemy homeworld grow larger on his screen. The planet below was covered in dark cities and military installations. This was where the Zephyrian Empire had begun, and this was where it would end. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison," came the voice over the communication system. "Today we finish what they started. Remember, we fight not for conquest, but for freedom. Show them what the galaxy can become when predators and prey work together." Got Liberation Fleet was unlike anything the universe had ever seen. Human ships flew alongside vessels from every species the Zephyrians had ever conquered. Former slaves now fought as equals, their weapons and tactics improved by human technology and training. Dr. Susan Baker, the fleet's chief psychologist, had spent months studying Zephyrian culture and behavior. Her insights would prove crucial in the battle to come. "Their entire society is built on the idea of individual dominance," she had explained to the fleet commanders. "Take away their belief in their own superiority, and their whole civilization collapses." The Zephyrian home fleet was massive, but it was also desperate. Half their empire was in rebellion, so their best commanders were dead or captured. Their supreme leader, High Commander Sektar, was a prisoner aboard a human ship. The remaining Zephyrian forces fought with the fury of cornered animals. General Bosch commanded the home defense from the orbital fortress above Zephyr Prime. He had been one of Sektar's most trusted lieutenants, but now he faced a situation no Zephyrian had ever imagined: defending their home world from an invasion by their former prey. "All ships, attack formation Beta," Vash commanded. "Show these meat creatures what happens when they challenge the apex predators in our own lair." The battle began with the largest exchange of firepower in galactic history. Zephyrian defense platforms, each one the size of a small moon, opened fire with plasma cannons that could destroy entire fleets. The Liberation Forces met them with weapons that combined human ingenuity with technology from dozens of species. Captain Michelle Davis led her squadron in a daring attack on the main orbital platform. Her ships moved in perfect coordination, using tactics that no single species could have developed alone: human precision, Altarian speed, Cessian shields, and Drachnary firepower working as one. "Target their command centers," Michelle commanded. "Remember, we want to disable, not destroy. There are civilians on those platforms." This was another concept that confused the Zephyrians. In their culture, war meant total destruction of the enemy. The idea of protecting non-combatants was completely foreign to them. But the real revolution was happening on the surface of Zephyr Prime itself. Lieutenant Commander Paul Johnson had been secretly working with Zephyrian slaves and lower caste workers for months. When the Liberation Fleet arrived, these oppressed populations rose up in a planet-wide rebellion. The predators are not invincible. Paul broadcasts from hidden transmitters throughout the capital city. Look up at the sky. See their ships burning. The age of fear is over. In the slums and factories of Zephyr Prime, millions of beings who had lived in terror for generations suddenly found courage. They had watched the galactic news feeds, seen how humans and other species were winning battles across the Empire. Now they had proof that even the Zephyrian homeworld could be challenged. The fighting in space was fierce. The real battle was for the minds and hearts of the Zephyrian people themselves. Dr. Baker's psychological warfare unit flooded there. Communication networks with a simple message. Surrender meant survival, not death. You have been told that defeat means destruction, the broadcast said in perfect Zephyrian. But look at your captured leaders. High Commander Sektar is alive and well treated. Commander Krather has been studying in human universities. Do not kill the defeated. We teach them a better way. The concept was so revolutionary that many Zephyrians refused to believe it. In their society, showing mercy was a sign of weakness. But as the battle continued, and more of their forces were defeated and captured alive, doubt began to creep into their minds. Major Karen White led the assault on the Planetary Defense Center. Her mixed unit of humans and liberated aliens fought. Through the massive fortress with tactics that had been perfected through months of combat, they moved like a single organism, each species contributing its unique strengths to the whole. Remember, Karen told her troops, "We are not here to destroy their culture. We are here to give them a choice." The final breakthrough came when Steve Murphy's team reached the main communications center. Instead of destroying it, they took control and began broadcasting throughout the Zephyrian system. "This is Captain Murphy of the Earth Liberation Fleet," he announced. "We call on all Zephyrian forces to surrender immediately. You will not be harmed. You will not be enslaved. You will be given the chance to join us in building a better galaxy." General Vosh listened to the broadcast from his command center and felt something he had never experienced before: doubt. Everything he had been taught about the natural order was crumbling around him. Prey species were defeating predators. The weak were overcoming the strong. It went against everything he believed, but the evidence was undeniable. His orbital platforms were falling one by one. His ground forces were retreating or switching sides. The Liberation Fleet grew stronger with every hour as more Zephyrian units surrendered rather than face destruction. The turning point came when High Commander Sektar himself appeared on the communication screens. The former Supreme Leader of the Zephyrian Empire stood in what was clearly a human facility, but he was unharmed and appeared to be speaking freely. "My people," Sektar said, his voice heavy with exhaustion, "I have seen things that challenge everything we thought we knew. These humans do not seek to replace us as rulers. They seek to eliminate rulership itself. They offer partnership instead of dominance, cooperation instead of conquest." The words hit the Zephyrian defenders like a physical blow. Their greatest leader, the embodiment of predator superiority, was telling them to surrender to prey animals. "I do not ask you to abandon your strength," Sektar continued. "I ask you to use it differently. These humans have shown me that true power comes not from conquering others, but from inspiring them to join you willingly." One by one, Zephyrian ships began to stand down. Orbital platforms lowered their weapons. Ground forces laid down their arms. The psychological foundation of their empire had collapsed more completely than any military defeat could have achieved. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship as the last. Zephyrian resistance crumbled. Around him, officers from a dozen species worked together to coordinate the peaceful occupation of the enemy homeworld. "Sir," called Communications Officer Janet Powell, "General Vosh is requesting permission to surrender his forces." Morrison nodded. "Granted. And tell him he will be treated with the same respect we have shown all prisoners." The formal surrender ceremony took place in the Great Council Chamber, where Zephyrian leaders had planned their conquests for centuries. Now it hosted something unprecedented: a peace negotiation between former predators and their prey. Dr. Baker served as the chief negotiator, her understanding of Zephyrian psychology proving invaluable in crafting an agreement that both sides could accept. "You may keep your worlds," she told the assembled Zephyrian leaders. You may maintain your culture and your way of life, but you must abandon the conquest of other species. You must free your slaves and allow them to choose their own path. Vash struggled with concepts that had no place in traditional Zephyrian thought. If we are not conquerors, what are we? We are teachers, Dr. Baker replied. Your strength and combat skills are valuable, but they should be used to protect rather than to dominate. Help other species defend themselves. Share your knowledge instead of hoarding it. The transformation did not happen overnight. It took months of patient work to rebuild Zephyrian society along new lines. Human advisors worked alongside reformed Zephyrian leaders to create institutions based on cooperation rather than dominance. Engineer Bobby Turner led teams that helped convert Zephyrian war factories into civilian production facilities.
Captain
Michelle Davis established training programs where former enemies learned to work together. Dr. Amanda Clark shared human scientific knowledge freely, showing that advancement came through collaboration, not conquest. The greatest challenge was psychological. For generations, Zephyrians had been taught that strength meant domination, that mercy was weakness, that the strong ruled the weak by natural right. Learning to think differently required courage that many of them struggled to find. But gradually, change took root. Young Zephyrians who had grown up during the war began to see the benefits of the new system. They worked alongside humans and other species as equals, building technologies and solving problems that no single species could have managed alone. 6 months after the final battle, Admiral Morrison stood in the same council chamber where the surrender had been signed.